I am making what I was making with my career job in 1 month with Airbnb.
The following is a conversation with Karen Bello, a personal assistant turned millionaire by age 28. Expect to learn what Karen learned from being an assistant to a millionaire, how she went from being a marriage and family therapist to successful business owner, and her advice for people who want to be financially free in their 20s. This episode is a little bit different from what I normally cover, but Karen is a really special person and her story is super inspirational, so I'm confident you'll take away tons of actionable and realistic advice for making it at such a young age. This is episode 5 of the Liftoff podcast. Welcome aboard.
3, 2, 1, liftoff.
Karen, thank you for doing this.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. Tell me about what it was like being a personal assistant for a millionaire.
Well, that was an interesting job. I got an opportunity to do. Never thought that after graduating with my undergrad degree that I would be working as a personal assistant. But it was actually one of my eye-opening jobs into the entrepreneurship world. Working alongside of a CEO of a big company was really, really interesting to me. The day-to-day life as a personal assistant too. One day I would be working, from his house, and then one day I'd be in the office, and the next day I'd be in Switzerland. So wow. It was an interesting job that I never thought I would have, but I was very blessed to have, because after that job, my mind was just really kind of intrigued on how it was possible to become a millionaire.
Mm-hmm. So who was this guy? Like, how did you originally get this job right out of college?
So my current mother-in-law, she was working as a housekeeper for him for many, many years. I was actually just graduated, so I needed a job and I didn't have a job yet. So she talked to him about it, and she's like, hey, I have my son's girlfriend that needs a job. And he was like, oh, okay, interesting. He didn't really care much about it. He was just like, he didn't really offer me a job at that moment. Mm-hmm. So it was during Thanksgiving holidays and Christmas time. And he asked my mother-in-law to decorate his home for Christmas. And
wow.
She took me along that day, kind of just to poke at him a little bit, like, hey, she really needs a job. Mm-hmm. And we were setting up a Christmas tree, and he had bought like an LED star for the top of the tree. And interestingly, it was like not pretty. It was not a pretty star. And he came up to me, he's like super excited about this star that he bought for his tree. And we were wrapping up everything. Everything was beautiful other than that. And so he asked me the question, he goes, all right, what do you think about the tree, the star that I got? And I said, I love everything except the star. And believe it or not, that comment was what got me the job. He called me the next day. And he told me that the next day, he's like, do you want to know why I called you and why I want you to be my personal assistant? Because you actually told me you don't like something. He's like, everyone tells me they like everything I buy just to like please me or like make me happy. And you don't even know me, and you told me that you don't like something. And he's like, I like the honesty, the transparency that you were able to tell me that.
Mm-hmm. Like the fact that you had your own opinions.
Yes.
And you weren't automatically intimidated, just like agreeing with everything he was saying. You actually gave your thoughts and stuff like that.
Exactly. And I think to him, it intrigued him, because in his world, everyone just like kind of goes by what he says.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So tell me about where you were before that experience. What did you study in college, and where were you before you worked for this business person?
Okay, so I went to college to ECU, East Carolina University. I studied my undergrad studies in psychology and Hispanic studies. And I was there for 4 years. I moved out of my home when I was 17 to go to college. And I graduated in 2018.
Wow. Okay. And what were your career prospects? Like, what were you thinking you were going to do in your 20s when you were in college?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a therapist, just clinical therapist. I knew that that's the word I wanted to get into. I really cared about mental health and advocating for mental health. That's where my mind was in my 20s, in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm. And then you ended up working as this like personal assistant role. So tell me how that job changed you. Like, what was it like interacting with this guy? I know maybe he recommended some books. And we can get into that. But just kind of like walk me through
Yeah.
how your mindset changed before and after this position.
Yeah, so I went into this position, obviously recently graduated. My mentality was I'm going to go get my master's degree. I'm going to go get my master's degree and find a better opportunity with my psychology degree because that's only so much you can do with the undergrad studies. During this job, I was speaking to many people at these meetings that he was attending. We had conferences that we went to all around the world. So I would sit down to these dinners, and the way, I guess, they open up my mind a little bit when it comes to the opportunities that you can reach for without a degree. So, and it was intriguing because in my mindset, as parenting too with my parents, it's like you graduate from high school, then you go to college, and then you get your career job, and you escalate as much as you can from there. But in their mindset, and what they helped me grow my mind with was the opportunities are endless, and he even his advice to me was don't go to grad school. He told me that sentence, just don't go. I was like, how could he tell me that? But it was a moment of, I guess, having that job and also reading the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That book also helped me a lot to kind of figure out how can we sustain, how can we have that mindset of success. Mm-hmm. That was it. And I had already had my undergrad degree, and I just felt like that wasn't it yet.
So how did that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, actually change you? I haven't read the book, but I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest lessons and learnings that you feel like impacted your mindset?
I guess it's kind of, the sacrifices you have to take at the beginning to evolve and, have success. It's really a process. And for you to, part of the book explains, two different people, one with a degree, one without a degree. And eventually, you realize that the one without a degree excelled and exceeded compared to the one with a degree. And, the mindsets of, starting a small business. The book also describes that. So it was intriguing to me, that story, of, comparing two people with a degree and one without a degree, and how one was actually doing better than the other.
Mm-hmm. So it really broke apart that belief that degrees are everything, that the highest level of education you had equals your earning potential. The fact that you can create a business, do things outside of the normal system. That book kind of along with the person who recommended it to you, kind of exposed you to that world, is what I'm hearing.
Yep, exactly. It was that I never in my growing up, that dream you have, graduating from high school, even going through college. If you would have spoke to that Karen before, I would have never imagined I had a business.
Wow. Never.
I didn't have that in my mindset. I didn't think I was going to have my own business.
So tell me about your conversation with him. You're obviously not a personal assistant anymore. So
Right.
How did that end, and what did you end up doing next?
So I decided to, I obviously knew I wasn't going to be a personal assistant the rest of my life. I had all these dreams after having that job, getting exposed to certain conversations, certain people, seeing beautiful homes. I remember I was riding around in his Aston Martin and his Ferraris and all this crazy things. And I was like, there's no way, I'm going to be able to do this. I think after leaving that job, and just kind of put in my resignation, he was very upset at me, but he kind of was intrigued to see what I was going to do. And he actually said the phrase, let me know what happens after this.
Have you talked to him since then?
Yeah, I still text him. I text him randomly, and I'll kind of give him little updates. And also I visit him 6 months ago. I still do drop-in visits.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is kind of an interesting situation. I just started, doing business full time maybe 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay.
And something I've noticed is you have your first hires, right?
Yeah.
And they get to see that all the fruits of entrepreneurship, and often wonder, it's why are they working for me? Why don't they these skills that I'm teaching them, right? And they also get to see the upside of entrepreneurship. Why would they stay in a job? And I feel like you're kind of that story where you actually entered working for someone else, you got to see the upside and then you left.
Right.
But I feel like a lot of people, even though they see the upside, they don't think they can do their own thing. So what do you think was the difference for you? Like, what do you think gave you that courage to actually go and believe that you could make a business?
I believe it was how my parents raised me. I think them immigrating to this country like 30 years ago. I was a single child. I don't have any siblings, and growing up, they always showed me the potential they were able to reach with everything. I feel like they were really role model of like what I could do, and I feel like that also that pressure, of being like a first generation graduate student in the family. That was also something that led me onto I can do this. And then just support. I think that's super important. Support from family, loved ones, them telling you can do it, Even my boss at my corporate job when I was a therapist, he didn't want me to leave, but he said, go do it. You need to do it,
Wow.
basically.
Yeah. So tell me about what you did after that role. I know you worked as a therapist for some time. Could you kind of talk to me about that experience and why you went back and did your master's, if I'm correct?
Yes. So I decided to go get my master's degree when I resigned from my personal assistant job. Kind of ignored his advice and still kind of hard-headedly went and got my master's degree. I guess one of the reasons I went to get my master's degree is just like I still hadn't fulfilled that kind of I met my career dreams yet because I had not practiced in my career yet. So I decided, okay, let me just see if I can find, that part of me of being a therapist. So I did. Got my master's degree, graduated during the pandemic, and started my therapist job, seeing clients every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 job.
So what kind of therapist were you and what location was this?
I was a clinical therapist, and I was working particularly marriage and family. So I was working with couples and children, and it was in Snow Hill, North Carolina, a small town, rural population.
Wow. So what were those experiences like? Would it be people, who were the kind of people you were treating and talking to? Like, how did they end up there?
Yeah, I was talking to most of my clients were uninsured, low income clients. They were mostly Spanish speaking, bilingual. I also had lots of marriage and couples too. I loved the job, actually. I have no complaint about that job. And I still have an attachment to that. So it is something that I still haven't let go. And even clients wise, it was really hard to, decide to leave that job and go and pursue my business.
Mm-hmm.
It was difficult. I think I love the part where you just have that fulfillment as a therapist that you're able to help your client out. And sometimes at the beginning, like the first session of therapy, maybe the therapist and even as the client, you're like, whoa, this is a tough case. And you don't really see the light outside the tunnel, but eventually you kind of together go through all these stages of therapy. And then 6 months later goes by or whatever time is needed. And it's amazing to see, your patients thank you and let you know, hey, I didn't think this was going to work. I was forced to come to therapy, and now I feel like I love this. They love therapy, and that was really a fulfillment for me to see that.
Wow. So just out of curiosity, I know you said I'm not 100% sure what the difference between a clinical therapist is and a regular therapist. Were these people who were in a clinic for something, or how did you actually find these patients and how did they find you?
Yeah, this was a nonprofit organization. It was a medical center. So most of these patients were just seen by providers there. And then sometimes right before pre-screening during their appointments, they get assessed for depression or anxiety. And from there is where the providers referred over patients that had a high PHQ score, which is a depression assessment. They would refer them over to us, and we had therapists on site.
Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes there's patients that would come in just for a normal medical visit and then realize that they had severe depression.
Wow. So tell me about how long you spent doing that job and actually what motivated you to leave.
I was there for almost a year. And I had a very high caseload. I loved it. I was seeing patients all day. And what motivated me to leave is that I already had Airbnb properties. And so it was juggling both, trying to juggle my full-time job and juggle the growth of my business. It was, at first I thought I was like superwoman and I could do it all. Realized that, I was going to my 8 to 5 job, getting home at 6 because I was doing an hour commute. Then from there, I'd like take off my professional clothes and put on my tennis shoes and run to an Airbnb and do setups and then be home at like midnight, 1 a.m. So, and I was doing that all week long. And my boss would sometimes look at me. He's like, "You look tired." I was like, "Yeah, I got home at 1 a.m." And he knew what I was doing. I actually was very transparent with him about everything that was going on whenever we had kind of our meetings, supervising meetings. So he knew that I was trying to juggle both. And there came a point that I just felt like I had to make a choice. And that was super hard. Like my career or my business. And what my ultimate like decision making was this. It was just, I can't put a pause on my business growth. You can't tell a client, "Oh, give me 2 years and I'll start up your Airbnb. Just give me 2 years. I'm here focusing on my career right now." You can't say that. I can put a pause on my career. If I want to go back and practice my career in 10 years, 20 years, I could do that. But you can't do that in the business world. It's kind of like you got to take action now.
Mhm.
It's clients need an Airbnb set up next week, not in 2 years or 3 years. So that was my decision-making process. I spoke to my mom, my dad, my husband, and they said, which surprisingly, my dad was like, "Yeah, do it. Quit your job. Focus on your business."
Wow. So tell me a bit about, we're kind of like entering the main topic of conversation, which is the fact that you run like an Airbnb business. And tell me a bit about when did you start that and how far did you grow it by the time you had actually decided to quit? And even also
Okay.
explain like what you even do in your business for the listeners if they're unfamiliar.
Okay. So I was in grad school. I had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, and I decided to rent out that second bath and bedroom. So, and I did that I got that 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, not because I could afford it, but because it was the same price as a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. So I had this extra space. I was also a broke college student, trying to get my master's degree, and decided to go and I was watching YouTube videos. And when you kind of get deep into the YouTube entrepreneurs and videos, ran to Airbnb rental arbitrage. Decided to kind of open my mind up. I'm like, so I can make money with my apartment that I don't own, and it can pay my rent and pay my bills. Kind of seemed a little bit sketchy at first. I'm like, I don't know. Decided to do it. I furnished that second bedroom, put a little smart TV in there, a bed, 2 nightstands. Didn't have the money for that, so I put it all on a credit card. Put it all on a credit card and decided to list it. And that was my first listing, was an apartment that I was living inside. And it was shared space. So I was sharing the kitchen, the living room, all those like common areas. And then they would have their own bedroom and their own
Wow.
bathroom.
So I want to like talk specific numbers here. So this is
Okay.
like year zero of your business, right? So
Right.
what was your 2-bed, 2-bath rent? And then how much did you actually end up making by putting your second bedroom on Airbnb? And then how much, like, how did that change over time? And what was the experience of? I mean, I'm sure there are many listeners who maybe they have an extra bedroom and they're actually
Right.
thinking like, "Hey, I should actually do something with this." What was that experience, and how much effort did it take to actually set it up?
Okay. So my rent was $850 a month, which I don't see that nowadays.
Yeah.
It was $850 a month. It was an okay neighborhood. Nothing. It was a really nice place. And I was able to rent out I remember my first booking. I was so nervous, but the whole first month was rented out. I think I had probably 2 days gaps in my calendar, and it paid my rent. It paid my light bill, my internet bill, and then it also put money in my pocket. So total, I remember my first month was like almost $2,000.
Almost $2,000 for 1 month. And where is this located?
This is in Greenville, North Carolina. Yes.
Wow. That's shocking that someone. So do you know why this person needed that place for a month?
Some of them were visiting. It's a college town, so some of them were visiting, like parents visiting the students. There's also a convention center there. There's football games. So even like business, there's business travelers. So there's a little bit of everything I would get, and it was shocking to me too, because I remember my mom saying, "Are you sure it's gonna get rented?" Because you have this concept that only like places like New York or bigger cities, like tourist places, are going to get booked. And that first month was just like, it kind of like like it lighted me up. It was like, whoa.
That was like the first money you made in your business.
Right.
Wow. Okay, so tell me about that rate too. Like $2,000. Did you just like set that, or did Airbnb give like an estimate? How did you figure out that you could rent it for $2,000 and then someone would actually pay that for the month?
So starting off with my first property, I really, everything I knew was from YouTube. So YouTube tells you to use smart pricing tool on Airbnb, and that's what I did. So it has a tool that kind of switches the nightly rates depending on the demand. So I really wasn't playing around with pricing optimization, things that I know now. I was not doing none of that. I was just letting the app take control of the pricing. Now I know that I can make more money with that apartment. If I still had it, I would still be able to make more money because I can manually change prices myself and turn off that little tool.
But $2,000, that's like really, really impressive, especially because your rent was $850. So,
Yes.
And how long did it take after listing before you got that first booking?
That same day.
That same day.
Yeah, it was that same day.
Is this like normal, or do you think this is like out of the ordinary, or why do you think you were able to get that like arbitrage opportunity so quickly?
I think just from my experience throughout the years and even now, what happens is when you post your first listing, Airbnb has this algorithm that it puts your listing on the first page. It kind of like puts like, you should book this place kind of thing. And even now I post my listings and it gets booked super quick. But I think one of the reasons that this apartment got booked so quickly was the rates. I noticed that pricing tool was affordable rates. You would rent out like shared space apartment, and it was like no pets in the apartment. It was just kind of just me. I would put that in my listing description, and it was $79 a night, $69 a night. It's like, okay. It was centrally located also, so that was also important. But yeah, I think it was primarily, it's like, okay, I can book an Airbnb instead of a hotel. I have a whole kitchen, is fully stocked. It was kind of like the reason of like hotel versus Airbnb. I think even today, there's still this controversy about that. But just depending about your host too, depends on your experience with Airbnb.
Wow. So tell me about how that changed over that first year. Like how many properties, like at what point did you find a second property? How much did you make in total just by renting out on Airbnb your second bedroom? And how much time did that take?
Yeah, so my second property was actually an entire home. That's my first one was an apartment. That opened up my mind to what could an entire home do? Like no shared spaces, just renting out a house. And so I decided to find my first residence home as an Airbnb. I sent out a lot of messages on Facebook Marketplace to homeowners. I'm like, hey, this is Karen. I'm looking to convert your home into an Airbnb. Are you open to this? I believe I sent probably over 50 messages. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy,
Wow.
paste. Yes.
And how long after you started your first one? Like how long did you spend with your first Airbnb before you decided to branch out and try to do the house for the second one?
The next month.
The next month.
Yeah.
So how much did you make in that first? Oh, you already made $2,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that I guess opened your mind to
Right.
like really expanding this business.
It was super quick. It's incredibly fast how I decided to take that next one. And I still had credit card debt from the first startup. I spent about like $5,000 to $6,000 on that first startup. So
Wow.
That's me not having any money. That's all on a credit card with interest rates.
Wait, okay. So tell me what gave you that confidence to like take that bet on yourself? Because I feel like the majority of people, I mean, obviously it turned out for the better, but the majority of people would be like feeling like this is a bad decision. So like what actually inspired you to take that bet, put the money on the credit card, and like trust that you could actually make it work?
Honestly, the YouTube videos. You just see if you just go on YouTube and go Airbnb arbitrage, or like millionaires converted from this, and you see it all over YouTube, and you're like, Okay, so I did my first one. It was very low budget. I didn't really go like all out with this. It was just an idea, not even a business model behind it. And just seeing others do it was kind of like, if they can do it, I can do it. And, I technically did it with that apartment the first month. So I knew if that apartment could do those numbers, I was really confident. I don't know where I grabbed the confidence, but I was confident that a home would do better.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I'm sure someone would be more comfortable having an entire home for themselves or renting out a home than shared space, an apartment complex, sharing walls with other people. So I think there was just like, there was no certain formula or no one to tell me data or numbers. Like what I do now with my clients, I sit down with them and give them that confidence of numbers and data. I had no one to do that with, like locally talking to someone like me. I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, YouTube, I mean, you can learn a lot on there, but there was no one from Greenville, North Carolina, a YouTuber that's saying, oh, I'm making these numbers, or you can successfully have an Airbnb making this amount of money. I did not know.
Now, if you're struggling to find a software engineering internship or land a software engineering job, and you see this year as the year that you want to break into FANG, I actually run a school for computer science students called the Software Engineering Accelerator. If you want to work directly with me to land the internship of your dreams without spamming lead code, without building a pointless GitHub page, and without spending hours at career fairs, I'd love to hear from you. We actually guarantee internships, so every student who enters the program gets an internship guarantee. So check the link in the description and submit an application if you're interested in getting an internship that makes all your friends jealous. So tell me more about that second property and how did you scale from there? Like, where did things go that first year?
So from that second property, in the next month, I got 2 other properties from that same owner who gave me the green light to do Airbnb with his house. He gave me 2 other properties. He messaged me the next month. He's like, Karen, would you like 2 other properties? This is a moment when my mom goes, I don't know what you're doing. I don't think this is a good idea. You should take things slow. And because everything happened so quickly. And that first house that he gave me was already doing well. I was already getting bookings super fast. So that gave me the confidence to go, yes, I will take those 2 properties.
Wow. So tell me if I'm incorrect in this, but you're basically renting someone else's place at this point, and then you're like converting that into an Airbnb. Are you keeping like all of the upside from the Airbnb, or are you giving them like an extra cut? Like walk me through that process of how this even works.
Yeah. So rental arbitrage is I have a homeowner, I speak to them, and we come into agreement. I lease their home, 1-year contract or 2-year contracts, whatever they may like. And then from there, I pay rent just like a long-term rental would do that. And then in their lease, they have an addendum and that we agreed that I can convert their home into an Airbnb. So I pay rent every single month. I have a security deposit for homeowners also. And then I list their home on Airbnb without being the homeowner, without having to pay down payment on a property, without all those extra costs of owning a home.
Wow. Okay. And talk to me about the numbers in that first year for the other 3 properties that you got. How much were you paying in rent? How much did you earn on top of that? What was your experience like actually exploring this Airbnb rental arbitrage process?
So my first 3 homes, my rent was actually super affordable. It was under $1,000.
How are you finding these places?
These next homes were in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay.
It was a military town, and rent isn't as expensive as in Cary or in Raleigh. Super affordable rent. So I got lucky with that. I think rental arbitrage is a little more difficult to do now because of like rent rates going up. But those first 3 properties were super affordable. And I was actually able to negotiate the security deposit with the owner on the next 2 houses. Since he knew I was taking care of the homes, I was responsible paying my rent. He decided to waive the security deposit. So that helped with costs too. That first year, I was able to pay my rent on all the 3 houses, pay my rent, bills, and also pay housekeeping and any extra costs, and then still put extra money in my pocket.
Okay.
So each home was profitable that first year.
Wow. So it was like you said 1,000 per home.
Exactly.
And then how much did you end up earning on top of that per month per home on average?
Like 1,800, 2,000.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. And then out of that extra 800 to 1,000 that you got on top of the like subtracting the rent, how much, like what were the profit margins on this related to like cleaning, random repairs, stuff like that?
Yeah. So basically, these houses were older homes, but remember that any sort of maintenance cost doesn't come out of my pocket. So it's the
Mm.
homeowner pays that.
Wow.
So
Okay.
let's say the AC goes bad. I don't have to pay $1,000 or anything like that. I just contact the homeowner. Hey, the AC is not working. So the only cost that would come out of my pocket would be basically restocking supplies like toilet paper, K-cups, anything that I'm providing for guests. And then also the electricity bill, utilities, internet, and rent.
Okay.
Yes.
So that would be like roughly, I'm just guessing here, maybe like $500, $600 a month for
Right.
each property profit.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's incredible. And how many hours per week do you think you were spending managing these properties, and like what was the mental toll on you to do this? I mean, you were also working your job as well. So
Right.
this is in the evenings and
So the
weekends.
first three, now that I look back, it's actually kind of like it was more laid back. It wasn't stressful. Kind of going with the flow day to day of inquiries, messages from guests. They'd pop up every now and then, kind of thing. I to me, it wasn't that stressful. I think the most stressful part was having my full-time job and that added
Mm.
on and the growth. That was the stressful part, is managing that. But if I was just only focusing on 3 properties, it was not super, super stressful. I say that now today
Mhm.
because now I manage over 55 properties. So that's where it starts getting kind of crazy.
Wow. So in terms of hours per week at this point, maybe like
I would say maybe 20 hours a week.
20 hours. Oh, well, that's still a decent amount, like as a
Yeah.
part-time thing aside from your 40,
Right,
50
my
hour a week
full-time
job.
like a
Yeah.
part-time job on top of full-time
Yeah.
job,
Wow.
basically.
And what was your strategy here in terms of managing these time? I know like a lot of people out there, they have a full-time job and maybe they want to get into starting a business, maybe doing Airbnb stuff, maybe doing content creation stuff on YouTube. What was your strategies for managing your time, those 20 hours a week, and also doing your 40-hour a week job?
And that in those days, I had to focus, like make sure not to use my time during my full-time job, but run home and then kind of manage that extra time during the evenings and always work weekends. That was kind of having to use as much time as possible. I guess I had to cut out a lot of socializing, social events, spending time with my family. I really had to sacrifice a lot of those important things to be able to grow my business.
Wow. So talk to me about scaling from there. You had those first 3 properties. Did you do anything with that second bedroom? You were still doing that around this time?
Yes,
Okay.
that was still going. It's actually still going now.
Wow. Wait, do you still
Yeah.
live there or do you live somewhere else?
No, I live somewhere else. I already
Okay.
have my primary home, but that apartment I decided to keep. I feel like it's one of those treasures you kind of hold on
Yeah.
to.
It's nostalgic almost, your first property.
Yes, and I still don't own it. I mean, it's still a rental arbitrage. I have
Yeah.
it running, and it makes me really happy just to see it there on my listings, because that's where I started.
hmm Wow. So talk to me about scaling after your initial place and the three houses from there.
So I think a really important part of scaling a business, you can't do it alone. So my biggest peak in my business and kind of growth wise, it's kind of a domino effect. Once that first domino falls, it all just kind of flows. Meeting people, networking. That was where I just took off from there. I messaged like some people, real estate world, on Instagram, DMs, and it's like, hey, this is Karen. I would love to see if we could work together. I'm in the Airbnb world, kind of poking up different type of people, investors in that world to see if they would give me a chance. And I did have someone give me a chance, and this person gave me many, many properties. And till this day, she still gives me properties.
Wow. So tell me about meaning giving you properties, like properties that you convert to an Airbnb. Like are you renting from them or how does that work?
So my first meeting with this person, I actually sat down and said, hey, I would love to rent out your properties and do rental arbitrage. But I really intrigued her mind, and she tells me she had probably over 30 properties at that point. And she posted on Instagram a post about it, and that's where I was like, I should meet this person. And I was offering her, like, basically I wasn't offering services. I just wanted to lease out her properties to rent them out. And at that meeting, she goes, well, why don't you help me turn them into Airbnbs and you manage them for me? And that was where I opened another door up in my business and started providing services of co-hosting. So I started off, she gave me one property to start off for her. And I wasn't doing rental arbitrage. That's opened a second part of my business, which was co-hosting services.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me about how that works, like co-hosting. I think that's what you're doing with my aunt, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, but for context, we're actually in my aunt's Airbnb
Right.
right now. That's how we met. But talk to me about how that works. Like, what are was it 80-20 back then still, or?
Yeah, so I charge a percentage. I charge 20% co-hosting fee, and I help homeowners set up staging, decor if they need that service. I'm able to help since the beginning because many people, they say they can't do Airbnb because it just takes extra time or extra effort. So that's where I come into the picture. I'm like, okay, well, I can help you set up, stage your place. And I can also help you manage the Airbnb platform, bookings, working with guests, any maintenance reports. So the services I provide is I manage completely everything that has to do with the Airbnb. And something I tell the homeowners, like basically the only reason you'd hear from me is like an emergency situation. And homeowners like to hear that. They're like, okay, so I can run an Airbnb, make extra profit, not have long-term renters, destroy my home, and not really have to be that engaged into, messaging guests or, the headaches that come with Airbnb also.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So talk to me about the revenue and profit and stuff like that for this opportunity. How many months into your business did you decide to go with this? Like,
that was after the first year,
okay.
I decided to add that onto my business platform, which was the co-hosting. And it's really a good model because you don't have to invest into a startup. So, remember I spent like $6,000 on my first startup. An entire home takes probably about $10,000 to $12,000 to start up. So that was kind of like really, you have to have a lot of like cash flow or figure out how to have that money to start up an Airbnb. So this new model, you don't have to have that. Basically, you charge 20%, and then you are making monthly income without any investment.
Wow. So it's literally just profit share. It's like your
Yes.
incentives are aligned because you just want them to earn as much as possible. So then you can take your 20%.
Right.
So how do you convince them to invest like $10,000 into actually making it to an Airbnb? Because I feel like that is probably the biggest hurdle.
Right.
That initial upfront investment from the host.
Yeah, it actually is like one of the first kind of like problems that happens, and like they're trying to grasp onto the concept of Airbnb. They're like, okay, interesting. I can make more money a month, but I need to invest $12,000, $10,000 to start up. Basically, what I tell them is like, hey, if you're going to rent out your home for $2,000 a month, but you could actually be making $4,000 a month instead. The initial cost is basically you're going to pay that off super quick. You also don't really lose money with that investment also because, I told them like I've had now furniture in my homes that I haven't had to switch out or anything or replace in 5 years. So it's basically, I think that like security that your income's going to be higher than long-term rentals. And also that confidence of having Airbnb insurance coverage. So like even like if you're putting this $10,000 investment in furniture, let's say an Airbnb guest breaks this chair that's here, they're going to replace it and they're going to pay you for it. So it is an initial cost to it, but it also brings in more profits in the future.
Yeah, and I'm assuming like the more clients you have, the more proof there is. It's like, yeah, I'm managing 40 properties. These are what all of my people are making.
Right.
I can do exactly the same thing for you. It's kind of like that proof of work. Probably makes it each initial client easier and easier and easier to convince.
Yeah, it definitely now I have like my mom tells me all this time because she hears me sometimes speak to my clients on the phone and she's like, you turn into this whole different person on the phone. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, it's like you're so like professional world and like you speak with such high confidence, but that didn't come overnight. I know my beginning conversations or finding those first rental arbitrage opportunities, a homeowner was like, okay, so you're basically, you're 23 years old, you never have done this before, and you want to convert my home into an Airbnb. So I'm very grateful for that first opportunity. And then even like with, my first clients that took me on in co-hosting, basically I had never done it. So it's like, okay, let me trust this girl that's telling me she's going to be able to give me these numbers. And from my properties, that's how I was able to grab data. But yeah, I think confidence over time. And now I can sit with anyone and be like, all right, even if in a location that I don't have a property, I'm able to break down the data and the numbers and kind of give them an average how much they can make. And I did that with your aunt. I know her property is actually my first property in Cary.
Really? Okay.
And yeah, I remember the first time she met me, she's like, how old are you? Because I mean, when I met her, I still had like 52 properties or something like that. And finished up the meeting and everything. And she asked me that last question. She's like, how old are you? And I was like, 27. And I think that intrigued her a little bit. She's like, okay. But now I have that like background and years of experience now I can say, oh, I have 50 properties. And I've had clients that have told me like, I only hired you or was able to trust you because of your profile. Because now my profile has over 500 reviews. I've been a super host for 5 years. So that helps owners, trust me in this process.
Yeah, that makes a lot of total sense. Talk to me about the numbers from like year 1 to 2. So you were like roughly in year 1, just to recap that. How much profit do you think you made on year 1 from your business?
Probably like 20,000 profit.
Okay.
It was nothing like crazy or, but it was
year 1. Like,
right.
I think that was the fact that you were able to earn 20,000 profit, also part-time,
right,
in year 1 of a business.
Yes.
Like that's already like a huge deal.
Yeah, it was to me too, because I noticed I was like, whoa, I'm not focused on this 100%. I'm just doing it on the side, and I didn't lose money because most, startup businesses or, beginners lose money their first year. So to me, the fact that I wasn't losing money was intriguing.
Real quick, guys, if you want to stay up to date with me and get weekly productivity advice, subscribe to Thoughtful Thursday, my very own email newsletter. That's where I share in real time all the techniques, lessons, and frameworks that I picked up that week. The newsletter subscribers always hear it first. You can subscribe at amanmanazir.com/newsletter. Talk to me about the divide between co-hosting and Airbnb rental arbitrage. In year 2, like what was the division there? Like what percent were you co-hosting versus rental arbitrage?
Year 2, I decided to focus 100% on finding clients in the co-hosting world.
Okay.
Yes. So that was kind of my main goal, was to find as many properties as possible. Year 2, I grew my portfolio to 12 properties.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
That was year 2. And so I had my rental arbitrage, but I was also co-hosting on that year.
And even today, is it mostly co-hosting over rental arbitrage?
Yes. So
Okay.
now it's mostly co-hosting, rental arbitrage, and owning now.
Wow. Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well. I think that's like we can get to that a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But talk to me about so year 2 in terms of co-hosting. How much were you making per month in terms of for your clients? And then also like what was your profit on top of that?
Yeah, so year 2, I was able to monthly per property, I was making $700, $800 on co-hosting.
Okay.
On those properties. Yeah.
Yeah. And is that like after the cleaning? Or I guess the cleaning probably comes out of the
guest. So the guest pays a cleaning fee. So basically that cleaning fee pays housekeeping.
Okay, nice.
Yes.
And then how many co-hosting properties did you have after year 2 completed?
After year 2, I had total of, it was 10 properties co-hosting.
Wow. 10 properties. So that's $7,000 a month?
Yes.
That's insane. And at what, I don't remember if you mentioned, but like at what point did you actually quit your job, like in this whole timeline?
Year 3.
So you must have been making like as much, if not more, in this Airbnb business compared to your full-time job.
Yes. When it came to that point, that was just, I'd sit in my office at my job and I was like, oh my, and I'd get my booking confirm messages on my cell phone and I was like, oh my, and it's like really kind of impatiently waiting there. And I'm like, I know I need to do this. Like I said, I still had an attachment, to my job just because of like how I'm an advocate to mental health. But I also had this like ambition and growth happening on the other side of my business. So yeah, it was intriguing that once I got to the point where I met the salary of my full-time job and beyond, and I was still there, and I kept thinking every day as I was like commuting to work an hour and being in that world. Yes. Commuting an hour, I don't know how I hung there. Like I was grasping onto that job that long. Everybody tells me, my parents, my friends, my husband are like, we can't believe you did that. But I think it's just, I guess because I went to school for 8 years, and then, it's like all that time going to school, getting licensed, I guess it's hard to let go.
Yeah.
But, I remember when I left my job, I still felt weird. Like that first week, I was like, all right, I'm a business owner. I was like, what do I do? Like I woke up and I was like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
That
Wow.
first week you feel really strange because you're so used to the routine of waking up, getting breakfast ready, running out of the house, commuting to work, saying good morning to all your colleagues, that normal 8 to 5 job routine.
Mm-hmm.
So once I quit that job, that first week was rough for me.
Wow. So wait, how much were you earning in your job, just to put a number on it at this time?
I was earning $65,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. How much is that per month? It's like roughly $5,000 a month.
After taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
After taxes and everything. I remember my biweekly check was like $1,800, something like that.
So you're earning a considerable amount more from your
Yes.
business. And was it still like roughly 20, 30 hours a week, or did it really scale up a lot?
It scaled up a bit.
Scaled up a bit. Wow,
Yes.
okay.
It wasn't, 2 or 3 kind of properties is easy, but once it scaled up to that, it takes some more time from you. I think at that point I had 2 full-time jobs. Yeah.
Wow. So it was 80 hours a week of work.
Probably more.
And you still didn't quit your job.
I did not.
What was your day like? What was your day in the life like? Honestly, like walk me through an average week around this time.
During this time, oh goodness, it was, I probably got 4 to 5 hours of sleep per night. And that was if I was even getting sleep. I remember a few times I had to pull all-nighters and go to my job after an all-nighter. And weekends, I'd wake up super early on a weekend and go complete a setup or do all these duties that I have to do as like a co-host also. So my day-to-day life was probably, at that point, there was no free time. Free time did not exist. Even like social gatherings, things like that. It was really hard for me to even make the time for it.
Wow. I feel like this level of commitment I have not heard of in almost anyone I've talked to. Yeah. Do you know other people? Like what gave you that drive just to be like, I'm going to work 80 plus hours a week and this is my life now. And I feel like drive to keep on going, keep on pushing.
I look back at it and if I'm being honest, that drive is still not shut off. So I still kind of, I guess now the therapist in me that's still there trying to help, tries to convince myself I need mental health time and I need to balance this out. And, I try to surround myself with people who are not in my world. So they kind of help me and guide me to like, okay, Karen, you should probably relax a little. Like yesterday, we were on a beach trip with my family. And on the way there, I had my laptop open the whole time. So 2 hours and a half going on my laptop. At the beach, I popped up and opened my laptop also. So there's moments that I do kind of question, like, oh my, like, like this is, but I also figure out ways now, like, how can I balance all of this out where I can spend time with my family? I can, have this quality time of, with my husband, my family. And it is difficult. I will say I still have battles today figuring that out. It's really hard because I am still at a point of growth in my business. I still feel like I have more potential, and that's kind of what keeps me up at night.
Wow. So talk to me about year 2 to 3. How did your business go from there? I know you mentioned that you were kind of exclusively going for co-hosting at this point,
right?
Rather than rental arbitrage. So walk me through year 2 to year 3.
Year 2 to 3. Okay. So once I quit my job, this is where I 100% focused on co-hosting and my business and rental arbitrage. I decided to build up my portfolio on rental arbitrage too. So I built that up and I have total right now 15 rental arbitrage properties today.
So is this year 3 or year 4?
Year
right
4.
Now? Year 4. Okay.
Yes. And year 3 was focusing mostly on like co-hosting, picking up those clients. Networking again there's no way to have built my profile that way without key people in my life and in my business. And these people trusting in me and figuring that out and finding those key people, that helped a lot.
Walk me through that networking. You've mentioned networking a few times.
Yes.
Walk me through like how that helps you in your business and what does that even mean? Like networking.
Okay. So I didn't know what that meant to begin with either. I'm like, how do I network? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? And, I think in this networking world, you really have to run into the right people. And I have this like radar sensor, I don't know, in me that I know when I meet the right person. So I would go to these real estate investors, networking events. Social media was a big one for me. I think social media, whenever I would see someone intriguing that had a lot of properties, I'd shoot them a message. Hey, it's Karen. I manage Airbnb properties. Would you be interested in converting your properties into Airbnb? So I think it's like just poking around at different people who are going to benefit you, but you also are going to benefit them. I think that's key because if you can prove that model to them, like, hey, it's a win-win thing. I'm here to help you. I think that's when you really find the right people to help grow your business.
Mm-hmm. And what was your, specific process here? Were you just randomly meeting people at events, friends of friends, and just, getting their contact information, messaging them every once in a while? I guess you mentioned that you had the like kind of like radar spider sense about like someone who you could like mutually benefit each other.
Right. So I didn't really start attending networking events per se until after year 4. I had never attended a networking event until then, but word of mouth was super key in my business. That year 3 of as many properties that I got was word of mouth. And then meeting an investor who really believed in me. And once I met that person, I think that person was so influential in the real estate world that helped me grow also and kind of communicate, hey, there's someone here that manages Airbnbs. I think there's not many Airbnb managers here, and it's a rural place. And there's a few of us now. I meet them randomly, and I think I came into this business at the perfect time where there was not many people that do what I do. That was also a super important part of my business to grow the way it did.
Yeah. I guess, like you said, now there maybe are more competitors right now, and it's harder to get into it. But talk to me about like year 3 to year 4. Or first of all, let's finish off year 3 here. I really like to know specific numbers because I feel like it helps provide context and everything. So what was your profit year 3, revenue year 3? How did that change?
So year 3, I was able to bring in, I had not hit 6 figures yet. I was very close to 6 figures on year 3.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I was able to it was a total, it's hard to like look back into that, but it was, I think, almost 20 properties at year 3. Yes.
Wow. And you mean like 6 figures per year or per month?
Per year.
Per year.
Yes,
okay.
at that point.
Wow. Okay.
After expenses and everything, of course.
Yeah.
Like I still had not hit it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right after, I remember it was after like the 20th property, I hit 6 figures.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
How did that feel when you hit that number? I guess you would not know until, maybe end of the year, but you were probably checking like per month and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. It's, I guess it's like a check mark on your bucket list, your life bucket list. Like, okay, I'm doing that thing now. 6 figures. I think in the like career world, you don't really think you're going to make that type of money until in my like world with a psychology degree, you probably won't make that money until either you go get your PhD or maybe you have like a supervisor position, something like that. So for me to be able to gain that so quickly was really it made me happy to meet that point.
Wow.
And from there, I knew whenever I hit 6 figures, it was one of those moments. It's like, I wasn't relaxing a bit, but I still knew that I could do more. So it was a moment of like, okay, I'm here now. What more could I do?
So talk to me about like how you went from year 3 to 4 and what were your kind of like changes in your business? Did you go more rental arbitrage? And then you mentioned like now you own some properties. So talk to me more about that.
Yeah. So in between year 3 and 4, I was able to purchase my first property.
Okay.
And decided to do business partners opportunities too. So I bought properties with partnerships also. So that my first year buying a property, I bought 2 properties that same year.
And then what kind of properties were these? Like houses, apartments, condos?
Houses.
Houses. Okay.
Yes. And that I think also that also kind of grew my business too, because I'm like, okay, I have a model now where I have rental arbitrage, I co-host and offer co-hosting services, and I also own my own properties. So that also scaled my business a lot, being able to have that buying power to show banks like, hey, I have 2-3 years of numbers and data of how much money I'm making, and being able to open that door up of having savings and being able to buy a property was huge for me too.
Wow. So is that the biggest difference between year 3 and 4? Was it just kind of like scaling more of what you were already doing and then also buying a few different properties?
Correct. Yes. I think once you start buying your own properties, it also kind of opens up other doors for you. I actually even did a flipping project on my own, my first flipping project, my only one, because I got into that world of flipping a property, an investment property, and very stressful. So I haven't gotten my hands into the second one yet.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But that was a nice experience too, of being able to, walk into a house and, obviously not a beautiful home, and then you envision it to turn into something really nice. And it's currently an Airbnb.
Wow. Okay. So talk to me about, I guess we're in year 4 right now. How's that gone so far? Revenue, profit, how are things looking?
Like today.
Yeah, I guess today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So today, I guess numbers wise, this is kind of something that really is never thought I would say, but I'm literally making like my salary, position, job, income per month from my therapist job. And that to me is mind blowing. I know I have my parents by my side, and they talk to me all the time like, Karen, you are like, we don't know, we knew you have huge potential, but I never thought I'd get to like verbalize that I am making what I was making with my career job in 1 month with Airbnb.
That's crazy. Okay, wait.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a huge jump between year 3 and 4 then. Right? Because you had just hit 6 figures per year, and now based on what you just like
it was a
dropped.
huge jump. Huge jump.
Yeah.
I say a domino effect, and my mom was like, that's not a domino effect, Karen. That is like you jumped off a cliff.
Yeah.
Well, not the opposite.
Yeah. Wow. So talk to me, like, what was the biggest needle movers here? Like in terms of, the biggest pushes in the business? Was it just having more and more and more properties, or was it like owning the properties that brought a lot more in? What was the unlock here that brought
I think
you there?
it's all three, like rental arbitrage, owning the services I provide, that model of having all three on my business is all three kind of help push me to that level. Also, I want to say like till this day, I don't have a website. I don't have a business card. And I don't have Instagram. I don't create content related to what I do. And I was able to like meet that, meet those type of numbers. I think that is crazy.
That's insane.
It's really insane. I think everything has been word of mouth. And I get phone calls almost every day. Hey, Karen, I hear you do Airbnb. You manage Airbnbs. Can you help me? I think it's just one of those things that once you become really good at it, people start finding out, and they're like, or a homeowner sits down with one of their good friends at dinner, and they're like, I'm renting out my house on Airbnb and I'm making $7,000 a month on a house that they would rent out for $2,500. So it's very intriguing, this world of numbers and how much you can rent out your house. It's super intriguing. I know with your aunt, I did a walkthrough of this house, and she has a really beautiful home, a backyard, pool. I did some data, kind of collected numbers for her. I never had a property in Cary before, but I was kind of analyzing the Airbnbs that are already in the area. So I was like, okay. And I always lowball numbers. I give my clients, I hate to give them high numbers, and then they expect those high numbers every single month, and maybe we don't meet them. So I always lowball. And I told her, I was like, well, I see this house making like $4,500 a month. And that's what I told her. She decided to trust me in the process, and now we're making $6,000, $7,000,
Wow.
$8,000. I think 1 month we made $12,000.
Wow. I know she mentioned that someone was going to rent it for like $2,000 or something like that.
And it was 2 nights.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's really fulfilling to see like these really awesome numbers that I'm creating for my clients. It's, and I always, sit down with them in my first meeting. I'm like, what is your mortgage payment? Trying to figure out what number I have to meet. And then from there, I tell them, okay, my goal is not to pay your mortgage payment only. I want to put money in your pocket too. So that's my business model, the win-win platform too. Like, hey, like I'm commission based, I'm percentage based. So I want your house to make the most money as possible. So I make the most money as possible too.
Yeah, 100%. So you're at this point where you are approaching like that 7-figure number. Talk to me about where you want to go from here. Like, what are your aspirations in terms of growing the business? I feel like you earn, like your business is already at a point where you could technically like be like, okay, I'm going to check out and focus on the therapist side of you, like enjoy your life, take a step back. But where do you want to go from here? Do you have that dream to like go farther and farther and farther?
Yes, I would love to have other properties in other countries. I would love to have other properties all around the US. I think I have a vision, to have all these vacation rentals, I don't know, like Tulum, Mexico, or, in Spain. I would love to go global. That's a vision I have. And now I think I'm at a point in my business where I am able to do that. Many people are getting into my head now, like, hey, you need to create an Instagram. You need to have social media. Please get a business card, Karen. Please create a website. So there's a lot of things that I haven't done yet, and I've gotten where I am today, but there's so much more potential. And I know it's there. I just, had to make the time. And I just hired a new assistant last month on my team. So I've hired a lot of new team members for my business that allow me to have that time to grow my business.
Wow. Yeah, I was very curious. Like, I feel like a lot of this was kind of done alone. So talk to me about your team now. Like, what does your business look like in terms of people?
Right. Yeah. It's incredible because like you said, everything was alone. Everything, I was my own accountant. I was doing my own spreadsheets. I was managing the housekeeping teams by myself. I was messaging guests at 4 a.m. in the morning, whatever these inquiries would come in. I was taking care of maintenance reports, ordering supplies, startups. Everything was just me. So now I have a total of 18 people on my team.
18 people?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. And this is obviously including housekeepers, maintenance, and then my assistant I have also. And I'm coming to a point where I finally have became stable in my business where I'm like, okay, I can sit here today and do things like this. Mm-hmm. I can create social media content if I'd like, or focus on hiring someone to help me with that. So I have come to a point in my business, ironically, because you're like, well, you have 55 properties. How do you do it? Like, how do you have the time? But now, since I am able to hire people to help me and have people on my team and support me in this business, I can have that time to do those.
Wow. Okay. Diving on the assistant point, this is just like a personal curiosity of mine. I've also been like trying to hire an assistant just to like help take care of that scheduling, calendar, email, invoicing, stuff like that. So just like, how did you find your assistant? Are they full-time right now? Are they in person, remote? How does that work?
So my assistant, she is awesome. She's only been on board for 2 months.
Really? Okay.
But it was really hard to find an assistant, to sit down with someone and let them know, hey, in my world, you have to work 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, on call, no days off, your birthday, Christmas, New Year's, whatever it may be. So this is why it took me so long also to find an assistant, basically having to find someone that could have that type of commitment. It was very difficult to find that person. And once I always had my eyes open for someone, like, okay, let me find who could be able to be my assistant. And when I found her, I sat down with her and I threw her an offer. And the next day she messaged me. She said, I'm going to quit my job and I will start with you in a month.
Well, okay. How did you find her?
She was introduced with me. It was like a friend of a friend.
Okay.
She actually got her doctorate degree in Colombia and she immigrated to the US 3 years ago. She wants to become licensed and get her doctorate degree here because they have to go through a whole process for that credentialing process. And currently she only had a job related to, she was like an assistant at a medical office. That was it. She was like a front receptionist. Mm-hmm. And I would hear her all the time talk about how much she hated her job. Mm-hmm. And I was like looking around, you look at little things about people. I remember I went to her apartment and I'm very observant. And I saw her have calendars on her board in her office. She had planners. Everything was so organized. Her apartment was super duper organized. It looked like a magazine place. And I was like, okay, and she seemed super organized with her time. And that's when I decided, I was like, I spoke to my husband that night and I was like, I'm going to ask Catalina to see if she wants to be my assistant. And he's like, doesn't she have a job? And I was like, yeah, but she hates it. And I honestly did not know what she was going to say. I really didn't. I was like, I'm going to see if she's okay with it. I didn't tell her the whole 365 days a year thing until after she accepted. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if she'll like it, but she said yes to everything. And she really enjoys this world. It is a crazy world. It's crazy, chaotic every day. I think we both probably have over 100 notifications on our phone a day, phone calls, lots of things happening, and every day is a different day for us.
Wow, that's insane. So
Yes.
I'm still more curious about like your assistant. So tell me, and purely for like selfish reasons, I haven't.
Yeah.
I really want to find an assistant who like does good work, but it's hard because yeah. So tell me more about like how many hours per week does she work? How much does she cost per month? What does she do for your business and you?
So I did some like little background work of her other job, figured out how much she was getting paid there, and I decided to pay her $500 more per month. I give her a salary position, and I pay her $3,800 a month.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
And this is it more than full time in terms of her hours, or is it like 40 hours a week, but it just could be any day?
Yeah, it's basically, it's hard to tell hourly wise right now how much she's actually working. But with her salary position, I gave her bonus offers. So for instance, for every new client she brings onto the business, she is able to make $500 more. So let's say she brings in, 3 clients, 4 clients, however many she's able to get. So she has bonus offers too. Per setup, she's able to make $1,000 per setup. So if we have 5 setups a month, she's able to really figure out ways to make more income. So like that's a base salary, but she has bonus opportunities too.
Wow. Okay. So she's really helping out with like, she's almost like an executive assistant or beyond at this point. She's actually helping out with like core parts of your business.
Oh, yes.
Rather than just like your time and calendar. Does she also do that?
Well, I was not related to personal assistant, just executive, but I really didn't really know what I needed. I knew I needed an assistant, but I didn't know to what point or what kind of responsibilities to hand over. And I did verbalize that to her. I'm like, this is new for me and this is new for you. Like we're both on this together. And to begin with, I had only said like the Airbnb app, but I noticed she was intrigued. She wanted to learn about the business. She wanted to go with me with my clients to a business meetings. She wanted to figure out the walkthroughs. How do I do a walkthrough in a home? How do I do my data research on if the home has people? So she had this drive in her. She has this drive in her where she wants to learn. And I love that. I'm like, are you sure you want to come with me? Like, like the benefit of this job is that you can work from anywhere you want. You could be at home. You can go to the gym with your phone. You sure you want to tag along with me with all these crazy things that I have to do? And she, she's always, I really love that she's open-minded. She wants to learn. And so it became her to only manage the app, but now she really wants to learn other parts of it. So that's why I gave her those bonus opportunities. I'm like, okay, if you want to learn how I talk to my clients or how I convince a homeowner to turn their home into an Airbnb, I think that's huge because I have someone who actually helped me grow my business too.
Wow. It seems like you found a really good person there.
Yeah. And I'm super happy. And, I obviously like do really like cool things with her. And she has been someone sent to me from God. I think she's just like, I did not think I would find that person. Honestly, it's really hard, trying to convince someone to come into this crazy world. But she's lovely. She's really good. I think it's important to find people like that too for your business who care about your business like you care about it. Super important.
I totally agree. I think I also, like I mentioned earlier, quit my job 3 or 4 months ago, and I've done some hiring as well. And it's incredible when you find the right person. Like I have one person, she might be listening to this right now, Elsa, but she's so good. I feel like when you find someone who they volunteer things, like you don't have to tell them to do something, but they like come up with new ideas, or they will bring other people in just because they wanted to. And it seems like they actually care about the business and the outcome. I feel like it's like a really special thing.
Yeah. I'm assuming we have someone similar because Catalina, she'll be like, well, and I tell her, I'm like, please tell me when I'm doing something wrong or tell me how we can improve. And, she created this platform for housekeeping ordering. I only had an Excel sheet on like Google spreadsheets and it was so confusing, like very chaotic. And she's like, there's this application or software where you can like have housekeeping kind of check whatever they need. And then it like auto creates it for us. And she set it up all by herself and, did it. And I was like,
Wow.
okay. I'm like,
Yeah.
and she her boyfriend's in the software world too. And he's intrigued too about this business world too. And I actually just bought a property with him last month. We did a partnership and had his first Airbnb together. So I think finding someone who has these ideas, because obviously there's only so much one mind can do, but if you put so many minds together and collaborate, there's so much potential and so much ways to improve your business.
Mm-hmm. Kind of talk to me a little bit. I was pretty curious about if there's someone who wants to kind of get into the world of business, someone, maybe they're their first year or they're working a normal job, maybe they're even in college and they're like, hey, I feel like entrepreneurship is the thing for me, but I don't know what I should do. And they're interested in this world of like Airbnb. Kind of like break down, what are your first moves in this game, kind of updated for 2024?
Okay. Yeah. I think I believe that it's a way to start is just one property. I think for me, that would be my advice. Start with one property. It's obviously like in the business world, you could lose money, but find a property where there's actually data or there's someone like me or someone that can guide them into the numbers that they could bring in and let them know like, hey, you have basically all the like proven, I guess, science or figure, like you'll know that property will do well. Start with one. Kind of get your feet wet. Is that the saying? Get your feet wet, and start with that. And then from there, there's always room for growth. And then, I feel like if I kind of have a vision of where you want to get in starting a business, you will have lots of sacrifices. I know I had them at the beginning. I sacrificed time. I sacrificed my career. I sacrificed so many things to get to where I'm at. And I feel like you should start with that vision. If there's anyone out there that tells you that they started a business without sacrifice, very questionable.
Yeah, I totally agree. Also, what were some of those resources that you used early on? I know you mentioned that you learned primarily from YouTube about this like Airbnb rental arbitrage. What are some of those YouTubers? Do you have any like top 3 recommendations, whether it's like books, podcasts, YouTubers for people to watch if they want to learn more about this space?
I'm really bad at remembering names, but there's really huge influencers out there who, they have like over 1 million views on their videos, things like that. So I don't know names, but just go on YouTube. All of them are very, very good information. I think my advice today, 2024, me with these properties, I sit down today and watch them still just to see if there's anything new I could learn or I should learn. And I do learn new things. And then not everything on YouTube is accurate. I guess I would give that advice because like I said today, I still watch these videos and there's some that show like startup like costs. And I'm like, whoa, that person spent $30,000 to start up a house. It's to me mind blowing. I'm like, I can maybe 12,000, or if you really want to, make it a little bit thematic or something like that, maybe you'll spend like 18,000. So I'll see a lot of these YouTubers make some mistakes too. And there's some things like in their world or their market, let's say they're opening up an Airbnb in California or something like that. Here, it won't make sense. So I guess kind of get the basics from YouTubers, but you really, really won't learn everything until you begin your own thing. That's when you'll figure. And maybe things that I'm doing really wouldn't work out for someone, California or Texas. So figure out your niche, your market, and go from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Out of curiosity, how do you learn nowadays? I think this is something I'm encountering where I feel like YouTube, it is useful, but it's very useful for beginners.
Right.
Because there are more beginners than not out there. So you're at like this like really advanced part of your business where you want to get to like 7 figures, 8 figures, stuff like that.
Right.
Who are your is it people you reach out to who you learn from? Or are there, I don't know, masterminds? Like how do you actually learn this new information that takes you to the next level?
So this year I started attending national conventions related to short-term rentals. I actually just went to one in Nashville, Tennessee. It was a short-term rental like wealth conference. And it was hosted by many masterminds related to the Airbnb world, people with 500 properties, these crazy numbers. So that's where I learned more on how to manage my business. I was able to speak to a lot of people who opened up my mind to ways to what is the word?
Automate?
Automate my
Yeah.
business. I think that's key too. So learning how to automate your business, speaking to people who have been in this world for 20 years, or well, not necessarily Airbnb world, but vacation rental world, people who have properties in other countries. So being able to speak to other super hosts like me, or even people who have less properties than me, I learn things from them. I actually attend some conferences here in North Carolina and met some people who taught me a few things too. So these conferences are where I kind of learn. I feel like I haven't found a book yet that teaches me other things, but these conferences are really, really good to learn.
So it's mainly attending conferences where you can meet other people who are more advanced, or even not more advanced, just other people who are doing the kind of similar thing as you. Because I feel like when you're in this game, or any game at all, you pick up on all these like small little things, and just by talking to the right person, they can often like uncover your constraint or weakness, or anything any advice that they would give, and be like, wow, that's like such a huge unlock just by talking to someone.
Yes. I think a mistake I would do before is I'd ask for advice to people who didn't even know about this world. And then I'd kind of get frustrated with their advice, and I'd like walk away. I'm like, this is not what I wanted. But once you talk to people who are actually in this crazy world and know like the ins and outs, or have as many properties that they understand like the model and what you kind of need.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, what's your like day in the life nowadays?
Today, I guess now I'm able to. Most of my days, like during the week, are kind of networking with my clients, my current clients. I'll meet with them. You'll see me a lot at coffee shops. I'm able to work from there. I am also all the time working on startups. So I'll be found in TJ Maxx's, Home Goods, Best Buy. I'll be running around. And today you'll probably see me enjoying my time a little bit more than I did before. Yesterday I went to the beach. I'm also kind of working out a little bit more. We're focusing on mental health. I like cycling, paddleboarding. So I'm starting to relax a little, I guess, enjoy these little things in life, which I wasn't doing before. And still kind of going to these meetings, figuring out how I can grow my business. I'm still doing meetings every week.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you feel like the biggest thing is for you next? Like, is it kind of like doing more of the same? Is it expanding into other markets? Like, what do you feel like the next step is for your business?
Well, my next step is I'm going to be focusing on social media. So I will be, Catalina, my new assistant, will be working with me. It was her idea. She wants to create an Instagram called the Airbnb Girls. So we'll be posting content like how we start up an Airbnb. So like before and after videos of houses once we start them up, and then posting like our day-to-day lives, tips and tricks with Airbnbs, maybe even throwing out some numbers out there. So working on social media. And then from there, I would love to figure out if I can get some properties outside of the US. And I feel like that would be another leap for my business.
That makes sense. I feel like the social media opportunity is huge.
Yes.
For you especially. I think at the end of this like episode, I'll have you mention any Instagram handles or anywhere you want the audience to go. But I feel like that opportunity to kind of show just client stories on like whether it's YouTube or Instagram, just be like, hey, we had this person, we ended up doing this is before and after. I went and did the setup. This is how much they're making per month. This is what you can expect if you want to get into this game, sharing tips, tricks, and like just building that personal brand. I feel like that's gonna be huge.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know a lot about this world. I guess a lot of stuff you hear about Airbnb is, oh no, parties. I don't have time for that. These are kind of the excuses I've heard throughout the years, or all these excuses of why Airbnb wouldn't work. But what they don't know is they could hire someone like me or my company, and they don't have to worry about all those things, and they would make more income off their property. A lot of people ask me like, Karen, why don't you do long-term rentals? And I literally get phone calls from people, and they're like, do you manage long-term rentals? And I'm like, no, I have enough with my world. Like I cannot, get my hands into long-term rental business or like world, but also I've seen I've seen more horror stories in a long-term world than I have in my world. And I've done this for almost 5 years. So to see that, I think, and also like, I don't know who would want their home destroyed, and I'm not saying all of them do, but having someone in your home live for a whole year and trusting that they're not taking care of it. I don't know if I could deal with that anxiety. The Airbnb world, you can walk into your home, every other day, or figuring out like when there's no guests, they check out, you can go inside your home. So I feel like it gives you more security and comfort that your home's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And you're making more money.
Yeah, 100%. That makes a lot of sense. I think I've heard my parents have a few long-term rentals and like they talk about how they're just like nightmares all the time. It's like people will like mess up all the appliances or they'll like start arguing with them about certain things that they expressed beforehand. It's just different things like that.
Right. Or not getting paid rent. Like, I mean,
exactly.
Like Airbnb, you're going to get paid. I know like last week I met with a client that I was convincing her to change she has a quadplex. And I was like, you should turn all 4 into Airbnbs, all 4 units. And we did a walkthrough of all 4. They had long-term rentals and renters in there. And there was one particular unit that we walked in, kind of like the windows that are here. And there was a whole wall where they could have mounted a TV, but they decided to mount the TV on the window border. And they like basically drilled into the plastic of the window to put their TV there. And I looked at her and I was like, I didn't verbalize it, but she saw exactly what I was thinking. And she said, yes, they mounted a TV on a window. And I was like, oh my, it's just like, I see a lot of things in the long-term rental world that I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. It also kind of speaks to when you're in business, and this is something I'm also experiencing, you start with one thing and then you get like 18 different opportunities left and right. Like for me, my main thing is like this YouTube channel, that also coaching program where I help students get jobs in software engineering. But also there's like this whole other world of like the agency side of things where like people are telling me you should approach entrepreneurs and like try to, start their YouTube channels for you. And I have done that for a few people, but it's like, I just feel like I need to focus on one thing. So it's interesting to hear like you're turning down that like long-term rental opportunity just to focus on your niche, which is Airbnb. And I feel like that's probably serving you in the long term.
Yeah, I definitely think you should take care of like what your like main focus is, and you're always room for improvement. Always. So there's always rooms to improve and grow. I have so many clients that have like so many properties in long term. They're like, Karen, like I have them here waiting for you, and I'm like, that's not my world. I wouldn't probably get excited in that world. I think I love the like notifications, booking confirmed, or the nice reviews that guests leave behind. With the stress comes good feelings too, and I just don't feel like I could get that in that world.
Yeah. So where should we send the audience if they want to like follow up with you, maybe connect with you, maybe if they're interested in actually, using your services to, create an Airbnb? How should people get in contact with you?
Well, I'll be starting my Instagram page soon. It would be the Airbnb Girls, and it will be probably in the next month or so. We will wrap that up and figure out how to start our first post. And then you can also find me on Airbnb. So I have a link to my Airbnb profile where I can receive messages, and then my work cell phone number.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll link all the contact information in the description. This will probably be out by the time you launch your Instagram as well.
Okay.
So we'll have that in the description. And thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
That's today's episode of the Liftoff podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you want early access to every single one of these podcast episodes, head over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or your podcast app of choice and follow Liftoff with Aman Manazir. That's right. You can listen to every podcast episode before it gets released on YouTube if you go over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or check the link in the description and hit subscribe. And finally, always remember, the night is darkest before the dawn. I'll see you in the next one.